Evil is not a thing. It is instead the absence of a good thing. In other words, evil does not have a supernatural existence, it's like a shadow. We as spiritual seekers have to admit that God has good reasons for allowing evil in this world. Let us discuss 9 key points, referencing why God allows evil, and its impact on our lives. 1. God training His children. Some of what we call evil occurs so that God can train His children. In other words, God allows some people to endure pain and suffering so that they can help weaker people with similar difficulties. If God has comforted you in your suffering, you should look around to see who you can help through a similar situation. Similarly, if you are experiencing suffering, then look for the help of those who have walked down a similar path. 2. Test of faith. Evil might be allowed so that God can test our faith. God tests your faith through difficulties. If you keep your faith, you keep your trust, you keep the right attitude, if you're grateful, you'll see God open up new doors. 3. Suffering draws us closer to God. Another reason for the existence of evil and suffering may be to bring us closer to God. We can all admit that it is suffering or hardship at a point of our lives that drew us closer to Him. A part of what we call evil is God dispensing justice in a way that is not ill-intentioned. 4. God's favor. Sometimes, evil happens to us because God favors us or is confident of our faith in Him. This is where Job comes in. Everyone familiar with the book of Job in the Bible can see how he had to go through suffering, just because God favored Job and was confident in him. But ultimately, we can see that God rewarded him on earth. 5. God's mercy. Evil might be a result of God's mercy. For example, if we were to assume that some of the babies who died prematurely or at an early age would have rejected God or suffered unnecessarily later on in their lives, we can see evidence of God's mercy in taking them away early and not subjecting them to pain. To say, this aspect of evil might be the result of an all-loving, all-knowing God protecting His children from more severe evils and suffering. 6. Path to salvation. Evil may also be part of God's plan of salvation. God allows this kind of evil as the means to save to the lost. I love the example Dr. Werner provided in his writing. Some evils, such as the death of a friend or loved one, often cause us to reevaluate our lives. For instance, when men reach the midpoint of their life, and some of their friends begin to die, these middle-aged men start questioning their priorities. Some commit the remainder of their lives to worldly pleasures. Others pursue heavenly goals. Either way, the thought of death causes humans to reevaluate their lives. 7. God's glory. Likewise, a different view to this may be that a part of what we call evil occurs for God's glory, like the story of the blind man Jesus healed. Jesus said, "This happened so that the work of God might be displayed in person's life." Our testimonies are always used to glorify God, and very often encourage fellow people, and may even lead others to attain a path of spirituality. 8. Disciplinary action. Some of evil is the result of God's disciplinary activity. Evil may occur because of our disobedience and non-diligence to His commands. Coming back to today's world, God has given us a simple command, to love one another as yourself. Let's be real, how many of us actually do that? If we truly loved one another, and God in the way He decrees, we can live a life in harmony with others. Much of the hatred and violence we see in the world stems from a disobedience of this one crucial commandment of God. 9. Free will. Another interesting point is, what if all this occurs because of God's desire for voluntary love? Evil or suffering may exist to give us a choice. Evil may be the result of human free will. God seems to allow things to occur that are against His will. But why would a loving God allow such evils? Perhaps He wants humans to be capable of acting freely, not as mindless, pre-programmed robots. Although God would like to have a world free of evil, He seems to value a world where humans can choose to do right or wrong. Evil cannot be understood from our limited perspective. Perhaps there may be one day when we will eventually be able to see how such evil and suffering ultimately occurred for our good. In conclusion, we as humans can only think of different reasons. God has plans, and none of us have the right to blame or question Him, but we must completely trust Him, and continue glorifying Him whenever possible, and believe in Him all our life. We do know that God did not create the world with evil in it. We humans brought evil into the world,